Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Cardwell, and I am the Executive Director of the New York State Independent Living Council. I am just going to give it a couple minutes while people enter the room, and then we will get started on today's webinar. I wanted to acknowledge a message that we received. So, this is a Zoom webinar, it is not a meeting. So, the only people who are appearing on screen are going to be the presenters, the panelists, and the American Sign Language interpreter. So, we'll get started in just a couple minutes. Thank you. All right, the time is 1:03 p.m., and I want to make sure that we can get started because we have a lot to cover today. So, on behalf of the New York State Independent Living Council, I am really excited to kick off today's webinar. This is the second in our series of monthly webinars happening all year. To introduce myself, my name is Laura Cardwell. I am the Executive Director here at the New York State Independent Living Council, or NYSILC for short. I am an Asian woman in my late 30s. I have dark hair, red glasses, and I want to tell you a little bit first about who NYSILC is and what we do. NYSILC is an independent, nonprofit, statewide council for independent living. So, as a little bit of background, statewide independent living councils are established under Title VII of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 as amended. And every state and territory in the United States is required by federal law to have a statewide independent living council. So, as a statewide independent living council, we're responsible for developing, monitoring, and evaluating New York's 3-year state plan for independent living. Our council is disability led, and we have 26 council members who come from the many diverse regions, cultures, and disabilities across the state. Our primary purpose is to increase the advocacy skills, leadership development, and empowerment of people with disabilities. And one of our main goals during this plan is to make sure that all different types of disabilities are represented both on our council and through the services that are provided by independent living centers. So before we get started today, I'd like to cover some housekeeping basics. This is a Zoom webinar, so only the people presenting and the ASL interpreter have speaking roles. This means that you do not need to worry about your camera. You will not be on screen. We ask that you use the Q&A feature to ask questions during the webinar. Now, I'm aware that Zoom recently changed their interface, and I had some trouble with that this morning. So if you can't see the Q&A section, you may need to click where it says More at the bottom of the screen and drag and drop the Q&A section to the bookmarks bar at the bottom. If that's not an option for you, you can also send messages in the chat, and they will be visible to all the panelists and presenters. We have ASL interpretation available in the window on screen. We also have human captioning available, which means that a live person is typing captions. I will now put a link in the chat where you can view the full captioning script. I'm sorry, Tess, if it's not too much trouble, would you mind putting a link to the captioning script in the chat? I believe the one I have might be outdated.
I will do that.
Thank you very much. Tess is our captioner today. Thank you very much. The live captioning link has been added to the chat. So to kick things off now, I'd like to introduce Joe Rappaport, who is the Executive Director of Brooklyn Center for Independence of the Disabled, or BCID for short. So Joe, please feel free to unmute and turn your camera on.
Actually, the video has been disabled, so I can't turn my camera on. Now I'm going to try. Okay. Um, I'm Joe Rappaport, as Laura said. I'm the executive director of the Brooklyn Center for Independence of the Disabled. I'm very pleased to be here with everyone. Um, I don't know who's attending, but my understanding is that there are a significant number of people from here on the Zoom from the independent living centers around the state. There are 41 of them. I'm sure you'll have lots of questions. Um, you know, those who I think there's going to be some discussion later about what independent living centers do. So I'm not going to go into great detail about that, but I do want to make it clear that BCID and the other centers um, serve anyone who identifies as having a disability. We're located around the state, typically cover a specific geographic area. In New York City, for instance, there are 5 centers, one in Staten Island, one in Brooklyn, one that covers Manhattan and Queens, one that covers Harlem, which is in Manhattan, but it covers Harlem, and one in the Bronx. And we provide all sorts of services for people. Our services do not cost anything, they're free. We provide benefits counseling, housing guidance, often have support groups, and we have specific programs to help with employment and other things that you might need. So that's the very basic description of independent living centers. There's a long history of these centers from the early 1970s. Uh, and we're very pleased to still be in business and to be helping people around the state and certainly in Brooklyn for us, for BCID. We also do a lot of advocacy. I know that Zaire and others have had contact with my advocacy director, Evan Yankee, who is couldn't be here today. And we work to make the subways accessible for people with mobility disabilities, to make sure that hospitals have ASL interpretation, all sorts of battles like that. One thing that we're working on right now is to push for hybrid open meetings so that if you want to attend a government meeting, you can participate remotely. That's the kind of thing we do, but I'm going to give it over to Sair, or to Laura, actually, who will introduce Sair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joe. So next I'd like to offer a very special welcome to Sayer Russell, who is the founder and the executive director of Autistic Adults of New York City. Sayer currently lives in Brooklyn, New York, and was diagnosed as autistic in August 2021, midway through pursuing their master's at New York University. After a long journey of adjusting to city life, a new diagnosis, and struggling to find community, they founded Autistic Adults New York City. A dedicated community builder, organizer, speaker, and consultant, Sayer is committed to advocating for a more inclusive and equitable New York City for autistics. Since starting the organization, they have continued to enjoy facilitating events and compiling resources for the community, along with director duties. Sayer, the floor is yours.
Hello. Hope you all can hear me okay. Hi everyone. My name's Sayer. For visual description, I'm tall. You can't really tell. I'm tall. I have short curly hair that's braided right now. I'm mixed, Black and Hispanic. And yeah, so I'm going to talk about independent living for autistic folks, some of the barriers we face, some things that are helpful for a lot of us. I'm going to talk a little bit about our organization first, and then there's going to be some time for sharing in the chat to share experiences, questions, discussion, and all that. But starting with our organization, I know I see several of y'all who are in the chat who are members, so sorry if this is not new information, but for those of y'all who are unfamiliar, we are an autistic-run nonprofit Our main focuses are community building, education, and advocacy. So being autistic run is very important. I myself am autistic. Everyone on our board, our staff person, our volunteers, everyone's autistic, and that definitely is important in like informing all of our positions, what we do, our programming, and everything. And we're a very small organization. We have like 4 board members, 1 staff person, and we have a pretty good team of volunteers, like 30 or 40 now, all who help with events or help with like our website, social media, and all that stuff. So on the slide, there's a picture of us at Disability Pride Day at the parade. I think this was from 2 years ago. And there's, I don't know, maybe like 30 or so in that picture. One of our core focuses is community building. So we host a ton of different events for autistic folks, both in like the tri-state area and also online. We do a mix of stuff. We do like outdoor events. Like on the slide, there's a picture of a plant walk through, was it Central Park, I think? So one of our volunteers is like a plant expert, and they lead our group members, and we like ID different plants and local New York City wildlife. We do picnics, which is the other picture on the slide. We do art stuff. We just got finished on Friday with a large like exhibition showcasing a lot of works we've done over the past month or 2. And then we do virtual events, all kinds of stuff. But yeah, we try to host a variety of different things to cater to folks' different interests and different needs. We also advocate for our community. We do this through, again, events. We have some public events, like we have on the slide is a picture of the Autistic Pride Day event we hold yearly in the park. We've been doing it in downtown Brooklyn. And we also have resources on our website. So the other picture on the slide is our self-advocate guide, which goes through like how to advocate for yourself in the workplace, at home, in your community. And then the last thing we do is education. So we hold different workshops and events, both in person and online, on different topics that are interesting or relevant to members. So we have like workshops on executive function, which we did last month, I think. We have one next month on communication. We did one on like sensory issues, the sensory experience for autistic folks. There's another picture on the slide of like a sewing workshop we did. So yeah, a lot of different stuff. We have like, I don't know, like average 20 or so events a month now. So anyone can join our community, anyone who identifies as autistic and lives in the tri-state area. If you're interested, you can check out our website. You just have to fill out like an application form, but it's pretty straightforward. It's free. So yeah. All right. So I want to talk about first some of the barriers to independent living for autistic folks. I know there's kind of a mix of people here, like some who are autistic themselves, some people who support autistic people. So I'm going to try to give a good background of like what independent living is, like a little bit about what autism is. So sorry if this is stuff you're already familiar with. But for independent living, I think one thing that's important to note is that like the term or the concept independent living doesn't mean like living without any sort of support on your own. Everyone needs support, even neurotypical folks or like non-disabled folks need support in some capacity. Like we're not, living out in the wilderness off the land. Everyone has support in some way or another. So the concept or philosophy of independent living is really about having control over your life, having the ability to make your own decisions, and have the support to pursue the same opportunities that everyone else does. So that might look like getting accommodations in the workplace. It might look like getting government support, through disability benefits, through SNAP. It might look like nonprofit supports. It might look like different tools or techniques or like therapeutic stuff that helps you just in your day-to-day life. Independent living covers a ton of different areas. It covers food, household tasks, so like cleaning your apartment. It might look like healthcare, covers housing, employment, taking care of finances, transportation. So there's a lot of different, topics under this umbrella. And there are a lot of different barriers that autistic people face that make us sort of unable to, live a happier, successful life, pursue kind of those same opportunities that other folks do, like, working or being able to travel freely. So I'm going to go through just kind of some struggles that, or what might get in the way in terms of independent living for autistic folks. There's a lot of things, and I'll talk more about, how autism can be different for different folks. But just some stuff that might cause difficulties with independent living. First is executive functioning challenges. So executive functioning skills, it's like an umbrella term for skills that help you complete a specific task or like a goal. So these include like time management or, working memory, being able to focus, emotionally regulate. So a lot of these skills are essential for independent living because, they support everyday tasks like cleaning your apartment, showing up to appointments on time. And a lot of autistic folks or other neurodivergent folks might struggle with these. Communication barriers is another thing. This can range from like difficulty expressing your needs or like, some folks are like non or minimally speaking. So it can definitely affect autistic folks in different degrees. Routines is another thing. A lot of autistic people are reliant on routines, might have difficulty adapting to changes. So like, moving apartments might be really difficult for a lot of autistic folks. Sensory accessibility, a lot of us struggle with sensory issues. Navigating independently can be a challenge, like, transportation, getting on the subway can be like completely overwhelming for some folks. Going in like public spaces where it's, there's bright lights, there's too many people. So that might be a big barrier. Social isolation, limited support networks. Like I said, no one lives completely independently. Everyone has support or needs support in some way or another. And a lot of autistic folks, we're isolated. We have small support networks. Again, this can be due to like communication challenges, just challenges with relationships or connecting with folks. So as a result, this might affect all areas of independent living, employment, connecting with housing, healthcare. Emotion regulation is a different thing. This kind of falls under executive functioning challenges, but this might be specifically really difficult for a lot of autistic folks. A lot of us experience, difficulty with emotions to the point where we might reach like meltdown or shut down. And this can make navigating a lot of things tricky. So like, for example, navigating, getting access to services. There's so many different like bureaucratic processes, forms, online stuff that can be completely overwhelming to the point where, you might experience a meltdown just from trying to handle all of these things on your own. Additional like health or like developmental disabilities. A lot of autistic people aren't just autistic. A lot of us also are ADHD or might really struggle with other physical disabilities, chronic illness. Some autistic folks are intellectually disabled, so again, these can kind of like compound and make challenges more difficult. And then lastly, financial instability. A lot of autistic people, most are low income, which can definitely affect, again, all those areas of independent living. So this isn't like an exhaustive list. It's just kind of to show like the range of challenges that can affect us. If you're not familiar with autism, it might seem like a just very long kind of unrelated list of things. But if you're unfamiliar with autism, there's according to the DSM, there's like two main components. There's the social communication aspect, and that can range from like lack of understanding the social cues to, again, being like non or minimally speaking. It also, so there's that component, and then there's the like restrictive, repetitive patterns of behaviors. So, reliance on routines, sensory issues. So those are the two main parts according to the DSM. There's a lot of other aspects of autism that the DSM leaves out. A lot of us don't really feel like it encapsulates our whole experience. But a lot of those, challenges that I mentioned do fall under those two categories. Another thing that's important is, autism is like a spectrum. So there's a variety of different like presentations. For some autistic folks, autism to them might look like, again, kind of not really knowing how to navigate some social situations, but maybe you're able to, have a job, you have, good relationships and stuff like that. And for some folks, you might not be able to have like a normal 9-to-5 job. You might have very limited like abilities for like social interaction. You might use like AAC devices to communicate. So definitely is a range. But like autism is not a spectrum in that like you're less or more autistic. And I have an image of this on the slide. It's not like a linear, like you go from being less to more. A lot of folks are using the like the wheel spectrum thing. So it might look like you have more in like the like social skills area. You might be struggle more with like the routines area. So it's not like a more or less autistic thing. There's a whole bunch of different categories and ways that autism can affect you. There's a bunch of other stuff like, you can get into like the concept of masking. So some autistic folks might like mask or camouflage their autistic traits, might present like as neurotypical just to sort of, get around in society, but that might cause a lot of other issues as well. There's the concept of like monotropism, which I think I'm going to talk about more later. So there's a lot of more aspects to like the autistic experience, but that's kind of the gist of some of the different ways that autism can affect us. I put some resources in the slide, which I think I can send in a second in the chat. So just a couple of examples of specific situations where different areas of independent living and how like autism can affect those. So the first example is food or cooking. So one thing is you might have difficulty with preparing meals. So some of the barriers can be, again, those executive functioning tasks. Cooking can be a deceivingly complicated process. So like, I don't know, if you're preparing like pasta, you have to like set a timer, you have to measure the amount of pasta you need to cook, you need to grab the pasta sauce from the fridge, you need to remember to get pasta sauce from the store. There's a whole bunch of different tasks. So being able to like multitask, remember all these things at the same time can be really difficult for some autistic folks. Reliance on routines, food and like the foods that you want to eat or feel comfortable eating can affect like what meals you prepare for yourself. Making a different food that you're not used to can be like a big hurdle for some autistic folks. There's also, and I didn't put this in here, a lot of autistic folks also struggle with like ARFID and like kind of different, have like food aversions and stuff. Burnout and like having low energy levels or like low spoons can affect, your ability to cook. Cooking is like an extra thing you have to do in the day. If you are extremely burnt out or if you run out of energy, you might not be able to like cook that day. Dyspraxia, some folks, autistic folks also struggle with dyspraxia. So like this is like your motor coordination, motor skills and stuff. And then food access. Again, a lot of autistic folks are low income, so might not even have access to like foods to be able to cook. Another area, tax preparation. And I'm mentioning this because I saw in our like Discord, a lot of folks are talking about needing to get their taxes done. Again, a lot of different executive functioning skills involved. So organizing documents, starting tasks, gathering all these documents to be able to like submit them. It can be difficult to get that started, get organized, or just know how to begin that process. There's a lot of like different complex systems involved, lack of accessible instructions. A lot of the stuff is not intuitive. Folks might not know where to find accessible resources to get started. Limited support, again, financial barriers. Some folks might not have friends and family or can pay for like the tax preparation softwares to get this done. And again, like burnout, low energy, like this can be a kind of cognitively demanding thing to get done, which might just be a huge hurdle for folks in terms of getting started. And then the last example, household management. So you might have a hard time keeping your home clean and organized. Again, these executive function skills will come into play. Planning, organizing, sustaining focus, task switching. Seeing a messy room might be like completely overwhelming because cleaning involves a bunch of different tasks. Like, you know, you have to take out the trash, you have to do the dishes on the counter, you have to like make your bed. It's a lot of different things, and just seeing all of that at one time can like completely put you into like a shutdown state. Again, burnout, low energy levels, sensory issues. Cleaning can be gross and smelly, and that is also a huge hurdle. Washing dishes is something that a lot of folks in our group have talked about, just being like completely overwhelming tasks to the point where some folks prefer to use like paper plates or just not like worry about having to hand clean dishes, because yeah, it can be really gross having to like deal with like food and like liquids and stuff. Lack of systems and routines. At least for me, I'm the type where like if I fall off my cleaning routine, it's just not going to get done. Like I have sort of a system for getting things done, and like this is something I've sort of developed over years, but yeah, like I can sometimes get thrown off these routines, and that'll like completely throw me off cleaning for months, which can be really like destabilizing. Okay, so I'm gonna pause now. I put some questions on the slide. So first one, do you relate to any of these examples? These being about cooking, household management, tax stuff. And then the second question is, what other areas of independent living do you struggle with? So you can put your responses in the Q&A thing, and I'll sort of read your thoughts aloud, or you can, I guess, put it in the chat if you're struggling with that. But yeah, go ahead and do that. I'll pause for a minute. Oh yeah, and sorry if my sound is quiet. I will see if I can adjust it. I'm also kind of moving around a lot as I speak, so I'll try to do that less. I see Ev says taxes and cooking. No, you're good. Yeah. If you want to elaborate, like what components of that are a struggle for you? Is it just like getting started? Is it or for taxes at least? Is it getting started? Is it knowing how to do your taxes? What has been the struggle? And Ollie, you can just answer there in the chat. That's fine. MK says paying bills on time fully because of low income. Relatable.
Someone answered in the question and answer section, I relate to the household management. I have difficulty with keeping my apartment clean.
Oh, I see that now. Okay, I was on the wrong tab for the Q&A. That is why. Laura, I see I can put it in the, so I'm sending my presentation in the chat. I don't know how to send it to everyone. I think it just sends to the panelists.
Okay, I'll send it to everyone right now. So this is a Google Slides
Oh, thank you.
presentation link. So everyone should have it in the chat now, and it's been helpful to follow along.
Thank you. I see a couple more. I see from anonymous attendee, I really struggle with cleaning and also making regular appointments for things, haircuts, health care checkups, etc., especially when I have to call someone on the phone to set it up. Currently in grad school, and the fact my schedule changes around every 4 months has definitely made those difficulties worse, since it completely disrupted systems, and I've just fallen off from it, and I'm kind of relying on hyperfocus to catch up once I graduate. Definitely relatable, especially like the calling people and just setting up random appointments. So the way that I get a lot of tasks done is I have a to-do list that kind of like manually like puts stuff in my calendar, and sometimes I'll have that like random like it'll take 5 minutes to do tasks that like keeps getting pushed because I don't want to worry about it. I want to worry about the other important tasks in front of my face. So I have like, make an appointment with the dentist that it's been on my to-do for like, I don't know, 5 months or something. So something that's helped me a little bit is like each day scheduling out a chunk of like, okay, I'm gonna, or maybe not each day, like maybe every other day or once a week, I'll schedule out an hour of I'm gonna take care of those like little 5-minute tasks, which has kind of helped me get some of those things done. But yeah, I think those small tasks, like especially with executive function and task switching, can be really difficult. Okay, so I'm going back to the webinar chat. Lucian says, I relate with cooking because I want to try a new recipe and then I don't want to do it because it has an ingredient that I haven't used before. MK says, finding a new doctor. Cool. Okay. I'm gonna keep going. Thanks for sharing. I'll keep, if you want to keep responding or throwing stuff in the chat, feel free, and we'll kind of catch up on that after. So in terms of like support for autistic folks, I think there's a couple avenues you can go with this. I think one really important thing that's been helpful for learning and figuring out how to manage, like learning independent living skills, figuring out how to manage day-to-day stuff, has just been getting peer support. And again, I know there's some folks in here who are like autistic themselves. A lot of y'all are members of our group. There's some folks here who are outside the community. But I think especially for the folks in our group or folks who have like talked with other autistic folks, you know how beneficial it is to hear an autistic person's perspective of like how they've been able to manage specific areas of independent living. A lot of times we might have had the experience of like neurotypical folks trying to teach us things or teach us skills in terms of like I don't know, cleaning our house or like employment stuff, applying for jobs that just might not work for us in regards to just the things that we experience and our specific challenges. So learning from other autistic people what we've done in our lives to help navigate some of these skills can really be impactful. So like for the example of like household cleaning, what's really been the most useful for me is learning different strategies from other neurodivergent folks and how they sort of manage their household. I put some examples on here, and I got some of these from group members from different events, but I got a lot of them from this book that I have over here. This is, and if you might be familiar with this book, How to Keep House While Drowning. Let me turn off the blur. This is a really good book. It's not like autism specific, but it has a lot of good tips for managing things if you're struggling with like mental health stuff or you're just kind of generally overwhelmed. So some of the examples I got in there, one was focusing on one task at a time. So like I said, a lot of autistic folks really struggle with executive function, which can include like task switching, like struggling switching tasks or starting tasks. So one way that I've been cleaning is by trying to just focus on one thing at a time. So instead of looking at a messy room and thinking I have to clean all of that, maybe, on Monday I will pick up all the laundry that's on the floor. Maybe the next day I will just do dishes, so I'll go around and pick up all the dishes. And it might not seem like you're doing a ton because you're just kind of like handling one area, but if you sort of break that out throughout the week, that can definitely help a ton. That's one thing. Laundry everywhere. If you are also have ADHD and have the tendency to just like drop laundry where you're standing, just put more laundry baskets everywhere. And then prioritizing things to conserve energy. A lot of us were taught growing up that we need to make our beds and fold our laundry, but you don't have to do that. You can just put laundry in a clean pile. That is one of those things I've learned from other autistic folks where I think we have these like standards that we've been held up to by like neurotypicals, but that's a perfectly acceptable way of living independently. Different ways we can support each other, learning in like community events. So like we have a ton of different like workshops and virtual events on different topics. Again, we did an executive function workshop last month. We do like virtual event series, like we have one on employment and like navigating that usually in like the fall. Another thing that really helps for autistic folks is like body doubling. If you're not familiar with that, it's when you like you do tasks with another person kind of like side by side. So you'll like sit in a call together and like you'll work on your own individual stuff. So maybe you sit in a call and like clean your room, or you apply to jobs together. That's something that we have like formal events for, but like a lot of group members will just like hop on our Discord, which is like our group chat, and we'll just say like, hey, can we like, I'm gonna hop in the call and like, clean my room if anyone wants to join. That like peer accountability can be really, really helpful for autistic folks. And just having informal conversations about these independent living skills. Again, I've learned a lot of things that I use in my day-to-day life from like folks in our group. We have like our Discord again, which sometimes folks will post discussions like, I'm really struggling with like navigating transit, what works for y'all, and then folks in the comments will put like, I really love these earplugs, or here's like a pro tip for like, navigating the stations. That's honestly been one of the most useful things for myself and a lot of other autistic folks, is just having conversations with each other and learning things. There's also a lot of different like practical tools and apps and stuff that can really help with independent living skills. So of course, communication apps for folks who are non or minimally speaking. Like there's different AAC apps where you can use them to communicate either with pictures or by typing. Having this is super vital, and like for folks who are like service providers or hold events for autistic folks. Sometimes like we'll have folks show up who are non or minimally speaking but don't have like an AAC device. They're not familiar with it. So having devices or even having like communication cards printed out can be super helpful. There's also a ton of other apps and technology that can help with different executive function skills. So like Finch is one, Habitica is one. Those are just ones that people have mentioned that have been useful for them. A lot of them will like gamify some of those tasks that like you might be avoiding, like doing your dishes, and they can be super helpful for getting things done. I think like for folks who also are like ADHD, that's one of the things, like having kind of like dopamine or rewards and stuff can help motivate you to get things done. Easy read guides and walkthroughs are really helpful for navigating different services that are available to autistic folks. I know that the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network has a ton of resources, which I put on, I think, the last slide. But easy read or like plain language guides are usually like very straightforward or like plainly written out breakdowns of different things. So they might break down different employment services or different like government programs that you have access to. And then literature resources, I just showed you the one book that I mentioned. There's also different like there's the Autism Friendly Cookbook, which has a bunch of different like autism friendly recipes. I remember, I think it was Elvis or someone who said in the chat, or was it Lucian? I can't remember. Oh yeah, it was Lucian, who said, I want to try a new recipe and I don't want to do it because it has an ingredient that I haven't used before. Some of these cookbooks, like the Autism Friendly Cookbook, has like recipes that you can like swap. Like if there's an ingredient that like you don't like or you're unfamiliar with, it has like alternatives. There are also other tools like I know Goblin Tools is one where like you can list the ingredients that you have in your fridge and it'll make you a recipe. So yeah, there's a lot of different cool tech stuff out there or resources. And then last thing is that there are, of course, services that are available for supporting autistic folks with like a variety of different areas of independent living. This might look like job coaching or like Access VR is like the New York State's like vocational rehabilitation. There's SNAP for food access, Medicaid. You can have like a DSP or like a support person come and help you just navigate day-to-day life or just help you with household management stuff. But I think, of course, one of the biggest challenges for autistic folks is just getting access to these services. There's a lot of services that we would have access to, but there's just like a large amount of barriers in the way. Honestly, it feels like a lot of these services are just set up for you to fail. Like they don't want people taking advantage of stuff like, for example, SNAP or Medicaid. There's a lot of different bureaucratic hurdles in place, and these services might not have super might not have plain language or easy read guides for navigating, and it can be really difficult for autistic folks to know where to start or know like if you're even eligible for stuff. So I think one of the main things that will help is finding folks who can support you with getting access to these services, benefit counselors, friends, and family. The Autistic Self-Advocacy has, again, like some easy read guides, which we'll talk more about at the end. But last thing I want to talk about, or I guess transition to, is I'm going to have Joe come back up and talk about independent living centers and how they can kind of support with this and other stuff.
Hi, folks. Thanks so much for that overview of the work you're doing and the autism adult group. As I said at the beginning, we provide independent living centers provide a lot of the services that sometimes people might need. For instance, BCID has a tax prep clinic, and we will, for most people probably on this call, qualify. I think the income limit is around $86,000 or $89,000, and if you have a disability, you automatically qualify to come in and get your taxes prepared. This is an appointment only. We're running out of appointments here at BCID, but we operate year-round. So if you need that kind of service, we're available throughout the year, except for the last couple months of the year. There are also a huge number of other services. If you believe that you qualify for benefits, we have benefits counselors, and I think uniformly, independent living centers have benefits counselors, people who can help guide you through that whole process. all our groups, I didn't make it as clear at the beginning, all our groups are disability led. And we have a majority of people who work for us and who govern our organizations are people with disabilities. Um, so, we are peers. We may not have the same disability as you do, but many of us have been through um, or are still dealing with the effects of having a disability in a world that doesn't necessarily embrace you. I think, one thing that people can do also is something that BCID has done is we've tried to be available for people for groups. So we've hosted several meetings here. Sometimes that's very important for a group. If you want to put together a meeting and we happen to have space, and many centers do have some space for meeting space, that's really valuable too. And, you should contact your local center. And if you're from a center, you should consider ways of reaching out to Sayer and others who may need that. We offer that to other groups, other disability groups as well. And luckily, we have the space right now to do that. We are, as I just want to repeat also that we're open, to anybody with a disability, and all independent living centers across the state also are as well. In general, we try to stick with the geographic area. Some groups go beyond that, or if you find, we often get calls from folks who maybe didn't get exactly what they wanted from another center, and we're happy to help and find the assistance you need. Any questions?
Oh, Joe, this is Laura. I just wanted to address a question that came into the chat, which I think is very important to answer. So somebody asked, are there other independent living centers available in Westchester or other counties? And, I think it's important to make sure everybody on this meeting understands that there are independent living centers located all over New York State. There are 41 centers. They cover every county. And I'm just going to drop a link in the chat here. This is a link to the official, state government website that lists out all the independent living centers. And it also shows the areas where each center is located.
And just specifically about Westchester County, there are 2 independent living centers in Westchester County, Westchester Independent Living Center and Westchester Disabled on the Move. And, they both do very good work. I think WEDOM, Westchester Disabled on the Move, is located in Yonkers, so the southern part of the county. And the other group, WILC, as it's sometimes called, Westchester Independent Living Center, is further north, but they're open to serve anyone in Westchester County. And then as you go across the state up to Albany, there are centers, and really the North Country, Rochester, Western New York Independent Living Center covers a lot of ground. And if you're, some of these centers have, smaller offices in other parts of their geographic area. So while, it's a big state, the Empire State, but independent living centers are in every corner of the state. And, we really pride ourselves on welcoming people and working with you to guide you independently. We're disability led. We're not going to take over your life. We're going to try to help you achieve the things that you need to achieve. Any questions for me or Laura or for Zaire? looking through the chat just to see if there's anything that also came up.
I would note that it came into the chat. Jose says exchanging info with other autistics has been life-saving. Most catch-all tip that can immediately help. And I would just respond to that and say that peer support and the availability of being able to talk to somebody that also has a disability, even better, somebody that has the same type of disability as you have. That's one of the main pillars of independent living. And I think it's been a long-standing belief that a community of your peers is going to be much more helpful than somebody that doesn't have the same life experience you have, just sort of talking at you and trying to understand you, but without being able to actually relate.
Hey, Laura, and thank you, Joe. I have a couple more slides that just go through some resources, but if y'all have general questions for any of us, you can type them up now and then we'll answer at the end. Oh yeah, so I put back in the sort of tax preparation angle and like ways that sorry, I'm gonna stop moving so much. Ways that you might address it. So again, you can connect with an independent living center that can assist you with that whole process. Peer support, talk with other autistic folks, see what has worked for them. Like I said, the reason why I brought this up is because I saw that some of y'all in the Discord were setting up a tax prep body doubling session. So set up something like that. It can be really useful. There's also probably some plain language guides or just tutorials online that you can find. I don't know if the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network has something like that, but they do have a lot of different guides. So I put some resources in the slideshow. Again, check out the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network. They have a bunch of different plain language guides on just navigating services. Like Laura was saying, there's a ton of different independent living centers. I put the link to their directory on here. I put also some links to Neurodivergent Insights and Embrace Autism. If you're, again, unfamiliar with autism and sort of the challenges that might affect like independent living stuff, those are some really good websites to check out. And then we also have some resources on our website. Our website resources are compiled by volunteers, and often we like get stuff from either volunteers or other like group members who have shared like, hey, this is something that's really useful for me. So check that out. Like we have an independent living resource, we have a self-advocacy resource, transit guide. This is like New York specific, but navigating New York City transit and housing. So yeah, check out our website for those things. But yeah, that's it. So is there any last questions about anything that we talked about? Any questions about independent living or autism questions? Let me look at the chat. Someone has a question. If this isn't too specific, is switching from a Canva supportive housing program to an independent living center difficult? This might be something for Laura or Joe if one of y'all might help or want to answer that one.
Sure. So here, let me take myself off video. So this is Laura, and I was just wondering, are you looking to change the location where you live, or are you just looking to access services that are provided by an independent living center? Because an independent living center is a community organization, so it's located in an area, and they said yes, location out of the city. So an independent living center may be able to help you find housing, but it's not a place where you would live. So it's more of a community hub where you can talk to people that can help you apply for benefits, or help you, in some instances, help you do your taxes. Sometimes they'll have workshops and sessions that help people with specific skills. Like I saw one recently, I think it was RCIL in Utica, had a session at a laundromat where they invited people from the community to learn how to make sure that you take care of your clothes at the laundromat, things of that nature. But it's non-residential.
And this is Joe. I usually when introducing independent living centers, I say, I describe BCID. BCID is an independent living center. No one lives here, at least as far as I know. That's what I usually add. So, yeah, we're as Laura described, we're a center where sometimes people gather for meetings or other things. A couple weeks ago, we had an ice cream for breakfast party. I dressed up in an ice cream cone suit, and we had, 80, 90 people here talking to the new commissioner for the mayor's office for people with disabilities. But yes, we're here to provide guidance and other services and to advocate on behalf of people with disabilities. And we welcome anybody, to contact our group or in your region, your group, to find out how we can help you with the kinds of things that people are writing about, looking for employment, looking for housing, that kind of thing.
There's another question here. How do I find job opportunities? We have on our website, and I recognize your name. I'm pretty sure you're in our group. There's on our website, there's an employment resource that has a bunch of different websites that either have like job boards or like job coaching stuff for autistic folks or for disabled folks. Some of it is New York City specific, but I'm assuming you live in the area if you are in our group. That's one thing. You can check out our website. Also on our Discord, check out the employment thread. There's always people posting stuff in there. And I had another thing that I was going to say. Oh yeah, and we have an employment series that we usually do in the fall of like virtual events. So if you can wait for that, we have that going on. Yeah.
And this isn't surprising that we would make this suggestion, but sometimes independent living centers are directly hiring. So there are a lot of programs run out of independent living centers. And, I would think that almost any independent living center would be happy to connect you to an opportunity that, perhaps a neighboring independent living center might have in terms of employment. And one recommendation that I think I missed earlier, Ollie recommended using a tool called is it Focumon? I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but it's a tool that can help with, I hate this word, but productivity and, making sure that you complete tasks.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Yeah, I think if there's no other questions, thank y'all. Thank you, Laura, for having me, for being able to do this.